Alright, it is going to be a weekly recap, and this is going to be for the previous week, which was the 26th to the 30th. I also finished the month of July here, and I'm actually happy to see this. This is the week that I'm going to go over specifically my trades. I really like this right here, but I feel like I could have done a lot better. 49 trades and up 373, which is the most I've ever been up on a month. Last month was 67, 108, 55, 120, 180. See, I had like a big trade down there, and then negative 20 was January. So I feel like I'm just maybe consolidating, and just right now I'm trying to hit some kind of a breakout and have a bit more gains. I do feel more ready to trade larger size on morning panic bounce plays. The thing is that they haven't really been that nice, at least last week, but I feel like I've been learning a lot since, and I've even been looking at listed stocks a little more. Overall, I finished just not very much. That last week here only was like $38, and I traded about $5,000 worth of volume. So let's just go over it. I had 13 trades, 8 were green. I had a 61% winning percentage. I didn't count this day that I didn't make or lose anything. My average dollar gain was $8.83. My average dollar loss was $8.04, which again isn't very much compared to the average dollar gain, but what helps me is that I have a 61% winning percentage, and number 2, which is an improvement from last week, my average position size on a winning trade is a lot larger than an average size on a trade that doesn't work. And one thing to look at, my average time in a trade that is green is 3 minutes, and my average time in a trade that doesn't work out is 1 minute and 34. So in theory, I'm doing better, cutting losses quickly, trading larger size on better setups, trading smaller or more speculative sizes. Clearly, I still have room for improvement. You know, some green, some red, and some like break even where I didn't really gain or lose much either. Just to look over here at the trading report card, just you know, I would like to be more profitable with the volume that I traded, but at least I wasn't like last week where I just blew up and had like 7 trades in one day. That was kind of sketchy. Maybe I did the right thing, I don't know, but I need to keep on working on refining and just getting better at trading morning panic bounce plays in general, and just improving on other setups too. I did not do this part. Let me see right here. In terms of how good were the setups, you know, I had 5 yeses, 3 kindas or eventuallys, 4 no's, and 0 like big no's. And as in how I traded, I did better, which is good because, you know, I am still trying setups. Some of these aren't working well. I'm learning what types of trades I should look at and shouldn't look at, so I don't regret any of that at all. I'm gonna write that I had a D minus basically and a C plus for how did I trade. So let's just put that there, 71 and 84. So if I guess if I had to say anything, is that I have to maybe try picking better setups so I can do better. But we'll just go over all the trades here, Tim Lentil style. Again, I had 13 trades, 8 of them were green, and that's what I'm going to do, is just go over every setup so I can look at it again. And anybody here, any of you guys who are watching this, you can just, I guess, learn from the way I do my journaling and all of that stuff, and maybe just see another person's perspective on some of these OTC setups recently last week. Let's just look at LCLP, which if I had to guess was like the worst trade I made that whole week, just coming off from that next not next but that previous week where I had those crazy 7 trades the same day. Let's look at LCLP. This was a morning panic bounce play at the 26th. So let's look at LCLP for the 26th. Let's just do it from way back here. It turned out to be a nice green day. It did have a wick, so maybe I played off of the wick. Let's go ahead and look at the 26th, which is the very back. right here, the 26. Oh yeah, this one was not really perfect, but this was a trade right here, and I got in at 934, 184. So 934 was right here, and then 184. So it wasn't really a bad entry at all. And I did make a mistake here. The volume wasn't really that perfect. It wasn't like one huge big volume candle, but there were like large volume candles in theory, which means there is a bit more risk. But my issue here was that when I bought at 184, I believe, the bottom of the range is hard to tell now, but the bottom was 181. So the issue was that when it cracked 181 and now 180 was at the bid, I should have cut the trade immediately because the range broke. And you might say, well, maybe it'll play off of 18. And yeah, it could play off of 18. 18 could hold, but in this case 18 did not hold, and it started to make another leg down. It went as low as 16.3 before it started to spike because it had news. This isn't like a normal, morning panic bounce play. This thing had a crazy spike because some great news came out that they were going to cancel some reverse split or whatever. It was something like that, some kind of good news. In theory, had I have, let's just go over my X before I get too carried away. 937, and this was 17.5, give or take. So 937 was right here, 17.5, which was right here. I guess, yeah, near the bottom of this candle, and I guess the other one did give like a chance to come back to 18. But I don't mind cutting losses as soon as the range broke at 18. What I should have done though was risk off of 181, and even though I'm playing penny games, I saved myself from it cracking 18, and then I have a bad execution because everybody's panicking to sell at the same time, and it leads to a whole nother leg down. So that was a good lesson. I won't do that anymore. I'll risk the range, specifically the bottom of the range, even if it's that close to a potential level of support, just to get out in case something like that can happen like this, or maybe even worse, it has a huge leg down. Again, it did turn around because of news. I wouldn't have bought this. It kind of turned out, it turned around somewhat randomly, but yeah, that was a setup there. That was a great lesson learned. And I think I said the same thing here, so that was a good lesson. Let's look at the next one, which is FERN. This is the first dip under VWAP setup. This is somewhat of a newer setup that I still have to get better at. But let's look at FERN for the 26. Right about here. So it was the first red day, not really too crazy. Maybe it offered a morning panic bounce play, and as you can see, the big day was next right there. I guess short the first red day. That's not really something I'm doing right now. Well, let's look at the 26th, which should be all the way back here, right? Yep. And first dip towards VWAP. I don't know what time it was. Let me take a look. 940 was my entry at 248, so let's look at 940. In that case, we'll bring this closer. 940 was back here, 248. Okay, I remember this setup now. So 248, this thing had a nice spike in my mind from 23.9 to this 26. Maybe I should have waited for one that spiked more and offered more range, but the idea is that it has a big spike and then it drops towards VWAP, maybe right above VWAP, maybe right at VWAP, maybe slightly under it. Try to find some kind of a range and take a buy, and then see if it turns around, which in this case it did do. It did go from 247, if you want to count the wick, 258, but you can just say 24 to 25 and a half. I probably should have waited for a better setup, one that had a nicer spike, but that wasn't the case here, and I did take my buy at 940. Maybe not the best entry, but I probably thought at the time it was going to turn around, and I probably risked the low of the range, which was 247. I already knew what happened here. This one really annoyed me, but that's fine. I did trade a tiny position, just $49 on accident. In theory, I wanted to trade a $490 position. Maybe this thing would really mess with the stats if I traded, like my actual size. Let me just see in theory. 496. No, my average size is still larger than my average, loss, so that wouldn't have been bad, and it would have only have been an $8 loss to small percent in theory, but no, I'm glad my stats are still good. Again, I traded too small of a size on accident. I meant to trade 20,000. But anyway, I got out at 942, and that was at 244. This one pissed me off. It just had like this stupid wick right here. I got out at 244 right here. As soon as the range cracked, cut losses quickly. This is something you see in a NASDAQ, but in OTC, yeah, this thing just really ticked me off. If I had maybe my full size, I don't even know if I would have been executed trying to cut losses there. It might have not have been executed because it did turn around extremely quickly before it started that uptrend. So I don't really know what to say much about this setup. I did good cutting losses quickly. It was a stupid wick. Maybe I wouldn't have been executed because it was so quick, even though it does show that it had like a volume candle, a slightly larger one. I don't know what to make of this trade, but if it's gonna do something like that and turn around, it'll piss me off. But you know what, that's fine. I tried my best, and this doesn't normally happen. So if it keeps happening, then I'll just not trade the damn setup, and then I can save myself from that. But some of these work out. Again, the only thing I probably could have done better is that I probably shouldn't have traded this and waited for one that actually offered a bigger spike than this. 242 again to 259. Maybe I should have waited for something that had a lot better range for this type of setup, but I did cut losses, and if I were to have bag held, maybe I could have sold for a profit, but that would have been kind of bad, not really trading according to my rules, and then it did turn around even more. So yeah, that's all I got for that one. The panic here, there was a panic here, and it happened later in the day, and it doesn't really look that perfect. It did have a big volume candle, but what was this, 20 to 21? So yeah, I probably should have just picked something that offered better range, but I think that was a good lesson. FERN was, did I actually trade the panic? Alright, we'll take a look at it. The 26 FERN, I said big, yes, in terms of how did I trade. So why actually waited for a top to form before I sold. Let's go ahead and go over this. 1005, I did hold this thing like a little longer. That's been something that I've been trying to do, and I can see I reflected that there. 1005, 204, and that was a proper size. 1005 was right here, 204. I had a killer entry at 204. Probably because I saw this thing drop. It had a spike, big volume candle. I've learned not to be in the trade if it's a big volume candle, because you're never. It's like a very high chance it's gonna go even lower. It did head lower, and then I bought 1005, 204, risking probably 2, which would have been a little scary, but that was my risk level probably. Or if I wanted to be a little safe, could have risked 202. I don't remember anymore, but if I had to guess, it was either of those two levels. And at 204, and I sold 1009 at 213. So 1009 right here, this red candle at 213. So that's where I got out. I got out right here. I got in right here. I did trade the meat of the move, and again, even though I didn't sell at the top at 2.2, I waited for this thing to make a top and then try to sell in the range, ideally at the top again. But in this case, I took a sell because it probably just wasn't looking that good. It did get one more move up to 215, but really that was the top at that point, and it did head a little lower, made like a baby, I guess you can call it a higher low if you don't count the wicks. If you do count the wicks, it's a lower low, but no, I mean a higher low here. But if you count, if you count the wicks, higher low. If you don't count the wicks, it's a bit of a double bottom or maybe a tiny lower low. And this did turn around from 20 to 22. It consolidated right under VWAP, and then it got at 3, 4. I want to get a lot better at these that have that panic and then it bounces and then it makes again a higher low, lower low, or a double bottom, or maybe like it plays and holds that VWAP or something like that. But yeah, that was a trade there. I was happy, even though this thing didn't offer much range. And you know, I didn't sell at the very top. I still at least waited for the top to form before I sold. So that was a good trade there. Great lesson there. And now let's look at the 26, which is DPLS, which is something I think I stopped trading after the 27th because this thing was just starting to look like trash. This is when I started to, you know, not trade DPLS and LCLP, I believe, because DPLS didn't really offer that much like percent range, and LCLP never really had like a clean, you know, uptrend over 3 days. But let's look at DPLS. And this was a morning panic bounce play the same day, the 26th. So let's look at DPLS for the 26th. Right about here. So it is starting to downtrend. It is trying to hold itself, but in theory this was, you know, a more significant red day because it cracked this 10.5 level, which is maybe perhaps why I considered it, because I was being a little less interested in trading it just because it doesn't offer good range. Let's look at DPLS. I guess from here, why not? Maybe I'll have to zoom in a little more later, but right now my entry was at 10.18. So this was a bit of a late morning panic bounce play. 10.18 at 8.85. So let's look at 10.18, 8.85. Yeah, let's zoom in a little more. It did uptrend later. 10.18, 8.85, which was right here, right there. 10.18. I guess I was just trying to pick the bottom right here in this thing. It's not, I probably shouldn't have traded it. It looks like trash, honestly, because it had like a fake out, and then I'm trying here, you know, after this fake out at 10.18. And yeah, I mean, it got a little higher, but you know, the ultimate bottom was right here. I was just one off. No clear sign that the bottom is in, besides maybe these two big volume candles, and then volume was looking a little lower, but not really. It was definitely looking lower when I got in at 10.18 and 10.19, but I shouldn't have traded this trash. It's just, you know, this and LCLP have been trading like trash, and I think I learned my lesson after the next trade after this one. And my exit was at, my size was about an average size. My exit was 21 at 893, so 21,893. I did sell somewhere near the top. I probably just felt like there was too much topping action, signs that this thing is going to turn around even more. And even if it got to VWAP, it would have gone from 89 to 95. I guess that's not bad. That would have been some range, but this thing just, again, trades like trash. So yeah, that's the, you know, that's too bad. It just trades horribly. And this thing did eventually uptrend after consolidating for a really long time. I could have done a setup like this, but yeah, that was a good lesson, I guess, not to trade crap like DPLS. Just really absolutely disgusting, that one. And not even in like, oh, it's a very toxic but like really fun to trade. No, that thing is just trash. Now let's look at the next day, the 27th, which is FERN. I tried 2 times. It looks like I sold profitably each time, but yeah, FERN was trading badly here. But let's look at FERN for the 27th. The 27th, right about here. So at least I traded the big monster red day, but this is when I started to realize that morning panic bounce plays are not really doing that well anymore, so I'm less inclined to trade them. And you know, it's not just me, other people are probably less likely going to trade them as well, which means the setup doesn't work as nice, which just means I have to look at other stuff to trade, better setups, you know, in the meantime. So you know, that's the way that is. My entry, my first one was at 940 at 1985. So let's look at 940, 1985, which was back here. But the first initial drop, 940, 1985. So I was here in this candle. 1985? How did I get 1985? Did I do more than one entry? I don't really see that. 1985 at 940. Huh. Oh, I see. Yeah, 19.8. So I got in at 19.8 and then the half of that. So between, 19.9 and 19.8. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. My entry was right here. In theory, this thing could have worked. It had two big volume candles. And then I was here at 940. This one was pretty big too, but it could have turned around. The volume could have faded like it did here, but it could have turned around instead of downtrending more. And let's see, I sold when there was too much topping action, just like DPLS. And yeah, I did, by trading conservatively, even though the volume candle was somewhat playing in favor. I went ahead and I took a sold and I saved myself from this downtrend, but I think I traded that one next to see if that was a bottom. Let's look at the next one. My entry was at 950 at 188. So let's look at 950 right here. I guess I waited for this thing to bottom before I considered it. 950 and then 188, I believe. What was it? 188. Yep, 950, 188. So right here, I guess the very top, near the top of this one. Just thinking, alright, volume is looking like it's fading. We had the drop here, another big volume candle. Maybe it can turn around. It did turn around a little. Let's see when I sold. 950. I held this one nicely. 955, 1895 again. Okay. What was it again? 1895 at 955. Right here, this green candle. But it was at 1895. So right here. I actually sold, yeah, right before it turned around. I remember now. There was like so many prints throughout all of this going through at 19, and it was just not breaking out. And I said, I'm not going to take a chance that this thing turns around and everybody who just bought this thing at 19 is now going to start selling at once. Let me just take it, nice and risk-free. I did get out. It did break 19, but as you can see, it only got a tiny bit higher right before it turned around again. So I think that was a very good sell, just because there was just way too much topping action. Really unfortunate that FERN, one of the latest potential morning panic bounce play stocks, just trade like absolute trash. It's just, again, less likely people are going to be interested in trading these. Maybe it will pick up and look a lot nicer, but right now they look like trash. I guess it reflects to why I made less, but I am looking at other patterns, and that's just the way it goes. It's just less interest in OTCs, I guess, at the moment. It is, after all, end summer, when in theory it's less, less crazy. So let's look at the 27th. Again, another morning panic bounce play, although this one seemed a bit better right here. So let's look at the 27th for FERN. So let me take a break. I'll be back, but yeah, we'll be doing FERN once again for the last move for this day. Okay, I am back. Let's again look at this last one, FERN. So yeah, traded it 3 times the same day, and this one was like, I thought maybe this is the last one. It was my last attempt. It was my most profitable one. It looks like I traded a $600 position on the first one, initial one. And then I thought, okay, maybe this could be it. I traded larger here, actually. And then this one, I traded smaller because this thing is starting to be a piece of crap. And the 27th, my entry was 1028. So let's look at 1028 for 167. 1028 was back right around here. 1028, 167. So I got the bottom of this. How did I get that? 167. Maybe I placed my entry at 27 and I got executed somehow in the middle, I guess, for 168. Does it say 168? 167 at 1020. Oh, 1026. 1026, 167. No wonder, that makes sense. I said, like, did I hack and get a crazy entry? 167, 1026. Here was another big volume candle, and I just thought this thing is going to have to turn around at some point, and it looked a little bit, I remember it looked a little bit like an inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, and then shoulder in theory, so I thought this thing could be better. It wasn't actually a bad entry at all at 1026, and I got out at 1028, 172. So 1028, 172. The only thing I could have done differently here is that I could have waited for the top to form, which was here at 179, and then I could have tried selling at 175, give or take, and that would have helped. So that's probably the only thing I could have done a bit better, is that I probably could have just waited again for a top to form. But at the same time, I understand that you know, this thing was just trading horribly, so you know, I was going to be a bit more cautious with that. And of course, that wasn't the ultimate bottom here. It did do another one, and then it started consolidating like DPLS did, and then it eventually even turn around? Let's see. It looks like it kind of did a little bit. Yeah, it did turn around. I mean, it got the 14, right? But as you can tell, absolutely disgusting. But if that's how they're all gonna trade, I'll just have to learn and get better so I can prepare myself for these, where it has like these crappy fake out breakdowns and then it eventually does a turnaround. So again, I did do that thing at 1026, right? Yeah, I think so. I don't know, I'm getting confused. Maybe this isn't even the right date. Yeah, that's the 28th, no wonder. I was like, what is this mess? Again, the 27th. So let's go back to the 27th. Did it work out at the 27th? Okay, so yeah, 1026 was my last entry, and it did do that turnaround, right? I feel like that is looking very drastic. 1026 for the 27th. Yeah, 1026 for the 27th. I should have waited for a top to form. Okay, yeah, this was it. It just looks a lot more magnified from a distance. And it did do that lower, and then, you know, it did kind of turn around. Then it went even lower, right? This thing never touched VWAP. What a piece of crap. Wow, it's like DPLS bad. And then here, it did, I don't know if I traded this the next day. I probably didn't, because I just had enough of it, you know? That's really unfortunate, but that's why I'm going to be looking at other setups. I mean, I still like morning panic bounce plays. They can turn around at any point. It could be that this stock in particular, it's just, you know, not very nice compared to other ones, and it could also just be because it's summer trading. But yeah, I just have to get better, really, and just probably just be more cautious with these, unfortunately, or maybe just FER in general is bad. Let's look at now DPLS, talking about iffy stocks. The 27th for okay, so morning panic bounce play, lower low. So not the initial panic, but the one after it, which was a lower low. Let's look at the 27th for DPLS. Right about here. So, you know, I probably decided not to trade this thing anymore, but this one was a bit more significant because it did crack like this range at 10, and it did make a move, and it just stayed at its low. So let's look at the 27th, which is back here. That is the 27th, right? Yep, DPLS the 27th. Let's do it from right here. And my entry was 1036, 812, so 1036 right here, 812, and oh, I remember this. This was very speculative. Here was 1036, 812. So I just thought, all right, this thing is a piece of crap. I'm not really gonna trade it, even though it did offer a nice morning panic balance play. But I think after it being retarded for such a long time, I think people are just not gonna trade these. And it did turn around, but you can see the volume wasn't nice. It didn't have a lot of people in it, less liquidity, but it did that. And then I thought, all right, you know, maybe it can start to turn around at some point, with my entry again being at 1036, so right about here. And you know, I thought maybe a lower lows for me. Here's a low, lower low. I've learned now again that this type of price action where it's kind of popping back and forth, it's not really good anymore. It's not reliable. But what did I do? I bought, and then I probably risked the lows at 802 give or take when it cracked. Let's see when I sold. I sold at 1037 at 805. So 1037 right here, 805. So I cut the trade for that reason, probably because it just, maybe it wasn't even here that I risked. Maybe I tried to risk off of here. Maybe my note says something about it. I guess if I were to go back to the video I made for that day, I can see where exactly I was risking it, but I had a tight risk, and you know, in my favor, DPLS trades with crappy range, so it was a tiny loss, tiny percent loss, and I did trade a somewhat smaller position for that reason. I haven't traded DPLS since. And the next one is DSCR. I don't remember. I guess I'll have to look and see, but I think this one also did some crappy morning panic bounce plays. Let's look at DSCR for the 28th. So the 28th, I guess we'll just do this right here. So here's the 27th. It did have like a bit of a run up. The 28th, you know, not really perfect because it's nowhere near its all-time highs, which was back here, but in theory it was doing an uptrend in that sense. And let's look at the 28th, which was back here. We'll do it from this level. We'll show a bit of yesterday, and my entry for DSCR was 935 at 115. So 935, which was back here, 115. I remembered my issue here. Let me zoom in a little more actually. Yeah, that's a bit better. 935. So this was the issue. I got in at 115 right here. I thought this is the big volume candle. This is a big volume candle. Two big volume candles, so not perfect compared to just one big one. And then I got in here at 115 because this thing was turning out to be what I thought a consolidation candle. It did get immediately to this 122 level, and at some point from 115 where I got in and then the high was made, it became the largest volume candle. I should have immediately seeing that now it is the biggest volume candle, gotten out of the trade, because it's like almost 100% of the time the biggest volume candle is put in and then the next candle is lower, or it gets lower eventually. I should have sold immediately. Instead I had to struggle, and I got out at 938 eventually for the same price. 938, just putting my order at 115, having it executed at the ask. I did get out completely, in and out, same price, 115, not even like a percentage, 11545 or something like that, just completely in and out at that price for break even. Had I have you know, seen this, I probably should, I did see it, I should have reacted faster. I should have gotten out of the trade, you know, gotten out for a profit, or maybe even a small loss or something like that. It did have another, you know, lower range, although it was a lower volume candle compared to the big one. You know, at 109, I probably should have gotten in at this level right here, this range, at give or take, you know, 11.1, and then I could have probably sold at VWAP at 121. And that would have been super nice. I would have made more money off of this, which was still not even that nice in terms of a morning panic bounce play. Not FERM bad, but still, you know, we've seen so much nicer ones, and that's totally fine. That was a great lesson. I had that before where I got in, became the biggest volume candle. I just need to cut the trade quickly. Even if it turns around, it has consistently shown that the biggest volume candle is, you know, a sign that it's going to continue a downtrend, whether it's a lot or a little. In this case, it wasn't that much. But I did risk it, like making another leg down, and that would have been really bad, which is why I put no in terms of, did I trade the setup well, did I trade well in theory, following rules. I put no, I should have done that, and that was a great reminder of that. I was happy, very thankful to God I got out, just break even, didn't have to get another leg down, stressful, another position in the trade, and then try to sell for a small profit or break even, or maybe a small loss from the bottom of the range, maybe as high as I can. None of that craziness happened, at least, so that was a great lesson. And just a reminder that a lot of these stocks, these OTCs, are just not doing good. anymore. Morning panic bounce plays, they're just doing kind of bad, which is fine. Let's look at the 28th for HALB, high a day breakout. So HALB for the 28th. The 28th is right here, and there was some trading earlier, so there could be potential bag holders, but nice big green candle. It did uptrend a lot, but I think I tried my trade here at the very top. I don't remember anymore. Let's look at the 28th. I remember the trade, but I don't remember where I bought and sold. It looks like it did uptrend some more. I remember my trade, I think, was right here or maybe here. It was one of those two. My entry was at 10:03.46. So 10:03.46. It was this one. Okay. So let me just zoom in a little more. It did get higher, eventually, but that was a lot later in the day. So again, 10:03 right here, 46. So right in the middle of the range here, and I sold 10:05 at 47. Yeah, so I sold at 47 because I felt like this thing didn't have much room, and I was taking it a little conservatively. It could have went much higher, but I probably didn't like how I had this green candle and then it dropped down even though it held the highs. There was just something about the price action that I didn't like, and I sold at 10:05 at the highs at 47, being extra conservative because this is a setup I'm not that experienced with, high day breakouts. So in that sense, I traded it fine. It was a great attempt. I hope I can get more experience trading these. It did fail. It did get below VWAP here at 37.5, and that would have been pretty bad had I have been a stupid bag holder. And it did uptrend some more later in the day. I think I missed the breakouts. I just wasn't there for it. But that was definitely a good attempt. Again, my trade was right here. Probably could have considered it when it cracked at this level right here at 210. It went up a little higher, but then it started to work itself around. Not really the cleanest, but that was a good attempt. I have to keep getting better at these. That was not a bad trade at all, and I did trade a small position size because I knew it wasn't something I'm that perfect with, that experienced with. DSCR, higher low, morning panic bounce play. These tend to work the least, higher lows. Unless it's like the higher low is at VWAP. Some of those are very nice, but this one, setup didn't work, traded the well, cut the trade quickly because of price action. So it looks like I sold into some gains because I had a 3% gain there. Let's look at the 28th for DSCR, which seems to be better than FERN. And look at how low it is. FERN did worse, and the thing was at its highs, I think. Let's look at the, what was it, the 29th or the 28th. Let's go back one. I mean, just the first red day. Not bad at all. I guess I traded the wick here. We'll take a look at the 28th, which was right here. Kind of sketchy looking, I'll be honest, but that was it. My entry was at 11:03, and my exit was 11:10. I held this one for a while. 11:03.111. So 11:03. Again, this was the initial panic, so I didn't trade that. 11:03 right here. Yeah, so in theory, this right here, this bottom would have been higher than here, which made it a higher low, but clearly it made another leg down. The setup didn't work. 11:03.111. So that was a nice entry. That really was, and I guess there was some larger volume candles here. Again, my entry at 111, probably, in theory, trying to go for VWAP at 12, which will be, that wouldn't be bad percent wise. 11:03. My exit 11:10 at 1-1, and I did trade a small position. 114.55. So what was it again? 11:10, right? Yep, 11:10 right here. 114.55. I remember this one right here. It just wasn't trading with much volume. I thought it could break this level, but there were a lot of people on the ask, and there was a person on the bid side that just kept getting chipped away. So I decided to take my sell and play it safe because it wasn't doing it, And this was impressive that I held this thing for as long as I did, for 6 minutes, trying to wait for the setup to work. It didn't. It downtrended, you know, to this range, and then it cracked to this level. So now it makes it a lower low, right? And then let's see if it uptrended eventually later, right here, back here. Yeah, it did crack. So I traded right here, I bought here, and then I sold here, and then, you know, it downtrended and made a lower low, kind of made an uptrend, and then it kind of made, I guess, a double bottom, and then it went from sub penny 96 to 10.05. So not really the best range here, and that would have been midday trading, a little sketchy. It was a good attempt, you know. I did call a tiny move here, but, you know, again, these things are trading. I'm not gonna say it's, I'm gonna try not to say it that much. I don't want to make it a drinking game, but morning panic bounce plays are not trading well. Unfortunately, I have to be looking at other setups. Although some of them do work out nicely, a lot of them haven't, especially with FERN, DSCR, but you know, there's still opportunity. I just have to be more conservative. BTBT, this was a listed stock, and you know, I have less experience trading listed stocks. I've been trading OTCs lately, but I did try one trade here, and that was a 29 for inverse head and shoulders. That didn't work out, as I say here. So let's look at that 29th for BTBT. The 29th was right back here. Lots of range, and then to zoom in, you can see this thing had a lot of range. Has been falling. It kind of reminds me of, I forgot the name of the stock actually. Oh, it reminds me of ESI, like back in 2016, but yeah, this was it right here, just a big wick. So clearly the setup didn't work, because it did, you know, trade really high, and then it came all the way back down. So let's look at BTBT. My entry was 1102, and that was 889.5. So 1102, which was right here. Let's just show this range, why not? Doesn't really help that much. 1102 right here, 889.5 was right there. So my entry was right here, we give or take at 1102, thinking this thing could be an inverse head and shoulders. Maybe the shoulder, head, and then this is going to be the shoulder, so it can get lower than the head. And you know, I got in here, I believe, right, 1102. Was it 1102? Yeah, 1102. And I sold the same, not the same, the next minute, 1103 at 81. So 1103 right here, 81. Again, because it just cracked to the range, you know. Ideally I was gonna make a shoulder here, thinking about this level. Didn't want it to crack lower than this wick, and it did, and I saw at 881. It did get like a little lower to 74, which would have sucked. And even though it did turn around here, you know, just a few minutes later, as high as 916, the inverse head and shoulder setup no longer worked. Again, shoulder, shoulder, head, and then theory shoulder was right here, but it did crack lower. It could have bounced back, broke the day high, did some kind of nice move. As you can see, this thing is still set up, in theory, right? Yeah, it's still set up very nicely. I'll probably be watching this tomorrow. It could be a potential breakout, you know, and this thing could really blow up some shorts, and cause a nice uptrend. But the inverse head and shoulders cracked here. It didn't work out. It could have worked out, but it wouldn't have been as high of, you know, odds for it to have done something like that. And then we had that classic listed stock big red candle thing that just happens, and it had a lot of downtrend, but it did catch up today. Not today, but as in the last day that it traded on Friday. But that was a good attempt there. And now let's look at the 30th. I did trade small too, just being cautious. 25 shares, $200-ish position. Let's look at the last trade, GTII, for the 30th, and this was a late morning panic bounce play. GTII for the last day, so you can tell it had this little baby run up. It does have like resistance back here potentially, but it had this run up from this, what, this 143 level to 276, so almost a double. And this was the day right here. You can see I traded this big panic it had. And let's just zoom in from right here. We don't need to see all of that. My entry was, again, late morning panic balance play, 10-11, just a tiny 100 shares, just under a $200 position because it was later in the day, and it is a higher priced OTC, so these things are not really perfect in my experience. 10-11, and that was 191.5. So 10-11 right here, 191.5 again, so right about here, right about there, give or take, was my entry. That wasn't really bad at all. It had a little fake out here, which kind of ruins it because it means there's a low chance the thing was going to play off as being all choppy. But this thing was better than FERN and DSCR in that sense because, you know, I mean, well, I had a volume candle here. This wasn't a consolidation candle. This was an uptrend. So I wouldn't have traded that. I would have waited for it to turn around, which would have been right here and then right there, and then it cracked. It just, again, just extra cautious with these higher priced OTCs. If it's under, I'd say if it's under 50 cents, they tend to play out better. But anything above it, it starts to be kind of a problem. But you know, it did turn around. It did get as high as 209, 210 if you want to round it. But let's go ahead and see when I sold. 10:13, 2 minutes later at 201. So 10, what was it, 10:13? Yeah, 10:13, 201. So right about here. So what happened was that it made this uptrend, got as high as 209. The next candle started downtrending. I said, all right, let me take a sell before this thing heads even lower. I guess in theory I did kind of wait for a top to form because I didn't try selling while it was still uptrending. I was selling it as it was downtrending, which isn't bad at all. It did kind of turn around and catch itself right back there, and you know, then it consolidated really throughout the entire day at this range. I had plenty of time to sell for a profit. Just a few times I would have sold this thing for a loss with my entry at 191.5. But yeah, this wasn't actually a bad sell at all because I did wait for a top to form, although it was just one candle. You know, it would take more than just one candle to know that the top is in, so it wasn't exactly the best, but clearly put a top here, you know, then another top, and then I could have maybe tried selling at 203, just a little profitable, or maybe at 2, but give or take the same level. But I probably should have waited a little more to confirm a top was formed, just to try to get the most out of it. But because it is a higher priced OTC, I did trade that one more conservatively, so overall wasn't bad. Just under a 5% gain, $9.55, tiny position. You know, I could have traded 200 shares and that would have been a little better, but I don't regret it because it was, you know, very speculative, very small. Seeing so many failed morning panic bounce plays that I was just trading things more conservatively. That's all I got for this recap. I guess if I have to say anything, morning panic bounce plays aren't working as well. They're looking bad. Could be just summer trading. The stocks might just be trash. It could be anything really, but I have to just trade them a lot more conservatively because they're not really working as well. Don't be in a trade if when you get in it turns out to be the biggest volume candle of that range. That's a great lesson. Risk off of the lows of the range. Do not risk, like, oh, even if it's like that close to a round number like 18 cents, if you wait for that and risk that, it could turn around, sure, but you're just playing with a lot of risk because it could crack, you know, that 18 level, and then you have to sell into a tsunami panic, or maybe try to like add as it's downtrending and hope it doesn't make another leg down. It becomes messy, like really yucky after that. So that's all I got. I'm gonna call it off. Just a lot of improvements. I'll be looking at listed stocks more. Unfortunately, OTCs aren't being that nice anymore. I'm gonna call it off. Just a good week. I'm happy that I ended the month well. And you know, maybe I won't see a gain that large anymore for a while because morning panic bounce plays, at least right now, aren't looking that nice. But you know, I'll just continue to study and just continue trying every day and then just keep getting better. That's all I can do. I'm thankful to God for the opportunities, and I just have to keep working at it.